What's going on, everybody? The Diehard MMA Podcast was filmed live and exclusively on odds.com. So if you missed the live show, click the link below. It'll take you over to odds.com where you can watch the exclusive replay where we go over UFC 255 and all the betting action, our favorite spots with special guest Matt Holt from US Integrities. Thank you very much. Share this link out, and we'll see you guys over on odds.com. All right, we got a co-main event here. Biggest favorite on the card, Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko, who is 19-3, maybe the number 2 women greatest fighter of all time at this point. Jennifer Maia, who is 18-6, finds herself in a crazy title shot situation that really nobody saw coming, took advantage of a short notice replacement fight against JoJo Calderwood, and finds herself here with a big opportunity. Valentina Shevchenko is 14-1, 15-1, 16-1, depending on where you look. Biggest favorite on the card, just an absolute monster, standing, power, explosive, good grappling, sick jiu-jitsu. I'm going to keep this one short. Valentina Shevchenko is winning this fight. It's a matter of how, it's a matter of when. I think that Jennifer Maia may be tough and durable enough to stay in this one. I'm potentially looking at an over here, because she is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She's tough, and I think that she might be able to stay safe, and Valentina can kind of John Jones-esque play with her food a little bit on the feet. The total set here at 2.5. I'm looking at the over. That's what I got. How do you feel about this one, Matt?
Love the over. Think that is a great pick and a good eye by you. Even in the one big KO finish that she had, Shevchenko, it was a high kick against Jessica Eye that came out of nowhere. Besides that, she wears out of nowhere. I mean, it was a one-shot walk-away high kick that I never saw coming at all. But besides that, Shevchenko tends to kind of wear down her opponents. Great striking, very technical striking. Go back and look at some of her fights with Holly Holm and stuff. No wasted punches, no wasted strikes. She's not in there trying to bang it up. She will wait, counter, jab, throw front kicks. I think this one probably has a very good chance of at least, I think it has a 50-50 shot, to be honest, to go into the judges' scorecards, or at the very least taking a lot of accumulation of damage by Valentina to get the stop. The only thing that makes me nervous, but this is the only way. I think if they fight 10 times, it goes to at least round 3.5. We get the 12.5 minutes in at least 8 or 9 of those 10 times, and it's basically a coin flip, minus 110 both ways. But the only way I think this one ends early is if Maia actually scores a takedown or they get caught in a trip, because I do think if they end up in a scramble, it's possible Maia trying to get a sub could get subbed herself. Other than that, though, I think this one cruises into round 3 or 4. Valentina slowly starts to accumulate damage and either gets a late stoppage or cruises to a victory.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is one where, we talk about women's MMA all the time. They go to the judges' scorecards. They always go to the judges' scorecards. That's why you get those massive lines. Well, because Jennifer Maia got a submission in her last fight over a JoJo Calderwood that just didn't want to be there that night. Yeah. And because Valentina Shevchenko has that highlight reel head kick, I think we're getting value on this over. This over 2.5 should be minus 200. Instead, we're getting minus 110. And it's a spot that I've talked about doing this a couple times. I have yet to actually pull the trigger and do it. We'll see if I get there this week. Lay the chalk on the over 1.5. Get the even money at over 2.5. Get plus money at over 3.5, over 4.5, and then bet fight goes to decision. And if you hit those first 2, you're free rolling on the other 3. Yeah. And just ride this fight out and see if you can make it all the way to the judges' scorecards.
I love that.
Might be the way to play this one. I talked about doing that on the Brian Ortega fight, and I chickened out at the last second because I thought that the zombie was going to clip him with something. I did play the over 2.5, and we got that one there, but I felt like I left 4 or 5 units on the table by not going with the whole thing. This one might be the spot. This might be one where I pull that.
I love that. You know what? I want to ask one question. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with this, but considering that Cynthia Cavallo fought before Maia did. So the UFC, I mean, maybe Andrade had too much recency to it, and so it was never going to be Andrade. But I think Andrade still could have been an option here. But at the very least, Cavallo was an option. How in the heck did the UFC matchmakers decide that Jennifer Maia, on a one fight win streak, with that one win against the shot JoJo Calderwood, I mean, this was never going to be good, and they didn't have a main event for a while to this. That was going to be the main. I mean, this just seems like something's up here. Somebody owe Maia a favor or something?
I really think it's just a case of them needing to fill a slot. I think, the JoJo Calderwood and Shevchenko fight, that one got pushed back because Shevchenko had an injury, and that's why the JoJo and Maia fight happened in the first place. And then when one of the biggest draws in women's MMA today, everyone loves watching Shevchenko. There are very few finishers in women's MMA like her and like Nunez. People love this girl. And when she's your champion and she says, no, I fight in November. Okay, you fight in November. So with Maia getting that win, especially doing it impressively, getting that finish over Calderwood, I just think she was in the right place at the right time, man. Cynthia Calvillo needs to get another win after her last one. That was not impressive enough to, warrant a title shot, in my opinion. And even though Andrade's win was impressive enough to warrant that title shot, I just think she was too late. This fight was already booked. It was already happening. The ball was rolling. If they had waited a month to book it, maybe we'd have Andrade versus Shevchenko this weekend instead. But I think Shevchenko probably wanted to go ahead and get that paycheck.
Yeah, I just think at some point it's a disservice to the fans. One thing I always loved about MMA and UFC in general, but especially UFC. I mean, MMA for the most part doesn't have those wide gaps like boxing does. Like everyone raved about, Terrence Crawford and Kell Brook. The line was 1-25. That's not a main event. That's not good matchmaking. They tried to all pitch it like it was a super fight. When you have to bet $100 to win 4 on the favorite, that's not a super fight. There's more even matchups out there.
Yeah.
And UFC's always done so much better than that. We just rarely get these. And look, Valentina is going to be a big chalk against anyone, but she's not going to be this kind of chalk against Cavillo, Andrade. This one, it felt like, I guess it is what it is, but.
Yeah, and that's, I love MMA that they make the hard matchups. They make these guys fight each other. There's no playing stupid games like boxing does where you have to wait until the other guy's over the hill before you're willing to take that risk. No, they do a good job in the UFC, but then you get rare occurrences, John Jones, Khabib, Valentina Shevchenko, Amanda Nunez, that are just head and shoulders above everybody else, that sometimes you don't have a good fight for them. And unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves on Saturday.
But what's the biggest favorite Khabib ever was? I don't think Khabib was ever like maybe the Daryl Horcher, whatever his name was, fight. I think he was like minus 1,000. But other than that, he's always like minus 300, minus 400.
In fairness, though, 155 is the premier division of the UFC. It's the most stacked weight class. You've got guys like Ferguson and Gaethje and Poirier, Conor McGregor, guys that can put you out with a single punch. Like this women's division just is not stacked that way. And like you said, there's a couple names in the division that when they get up to challenger, we'll see a slightly shorter line, but she'll be minus 700. She'll be minus 600, minus, it won't be that big of a gap, but I think it's the level of competition in that spot.
No, you're right. And I love the analysis. I'm going to bet it over 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 and go the distance. I already have over 2.5 minus 110, but I'm going to complete the whole caboose here and take the whole train ride.
I like it. Let's do it. Let's just ride that crazy train. And that'll be a fun way to watch a potentially boring fight. If they're grappling or if they're sitting at range and doing a whole lot of nothing, we're just going to be watching those seconds on the clock tick by, doing this every single time we get by a minute. So it'll make that fight much more entertaining, in my opinion.
And I don't think she's going to want to hurt Jennifer late. I wouldn't be surprised if she puts 3 or 4 rounds in the bank and just cruises late, and Jennifer doesn't have the gas tank to try to hurt her anyway. She knows Jennifer is not going to be a threat anymore and just cruises.
I agree. I think Jennifer's going to be a little too slow in there, and I think she's not going to have much to offer as far as offense goes. She won't be able to catch her. She won't be able to close the distance. So honestly, we may see a spot where Shevchenko Kiazin kicks her leg from range and circles her for a good 4 rounds. And you never know. If, like you said, if they end up in a scramble on the floor, somebody could catch an arm. Somebody could catch a neck, but I'm never going to bet on anybody submitting Jennifer Maia because the one thing she has going for her is a sick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So if it ends up in a ground scramble, I'm hoping it's a stalemate and we just burn some time off that clock.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, it is main event time, everybody. This is odds.com. I have our special guest here, Matthew Holt, the president of US Integrity, hanging out with us this evening. Please make sure that you hit the like button, share the show, get it out there. Those of you who are with me live tonight, you got to view the whole thing firsthand. The replay of this is going to be exclusive to odds.com. That's what we've decided to do. So those of you here right now listening to this, no problem. But share the video out there to make sure everybody else gets an opportunity to see it. I will tweet the link where it's going to be exclusive on odds probably tomorrow. David, I want to go ahead and address this, buddy. We're getting hoodies, folks. We're doing the Diehard MMA Podcast logo, and we're going to get some hoodies because it's getting a little colder out there. Hopefully we'll have some news very, very soon, and I will pass that along to you guys as soon as possible.